Now that we have downloaded, opened, and duplicated our image, we are ready to get started with our layers and actually editing and adding to this. I'm going to start by zooming in using Command plus, but if you are on a PC, it could be Control plus instead. And I am going to make a new layer for my paint tool that I'm going to use to add some character to this apple. Not only am I going to make a layer for my paint though, I want to make separate layers for the different things that I add so that I can control them individually. If I have everything all in one layer, it gets a lot harder to erase one part and not the other. So I'm going to separate these out. I'm going to start by making eyes. So I'm going to call this layer eyes. I'm going to get my brush by either hitting B or clicking on the brush tool. I'm going to make sure I know what size brush I have, and I want the hardness to be all the way up. I don't want this to be fuzzy. I am going to make some kind of squinty eyes because I'm going to make it, ooh, look at that, forgot to check my colors because it won't let me reset back to the default settings. So hopefully you were able to, but if you didn't get to reset from the beginning, I can reset my colors by either clicking on this little icon to reset to black and white, or I can hit D for default, and that will bring me back to the default black and white. Okay, so now I'm going to just draw in these little kind of squinty eyes. I want to make it look like he's struggling. And I'm going to add a new layer for mouth. Again, the reason that we add a new layer for each of these things is so that it's easier to edit them separately and you don't accidentally erase something that you wanted to keep because you had them all in the same layer. So I'm going to give him just kind of a little struggling mouth. But I don't want his teeth to show red like the apple. I want white underneath his teeth. So I'm actually going to make another layer. I'm just going to call it teeth white. I'm going to paint with my brush, but now I'm going to get white. So I'm going to click X to switch my foreground and background. I'm going to click over here and drag to paint in that area where the teeth are with white. But obviously I don't want it to show over top of the details of his teeth, so I can drag that layer down below the mouth outline, and it'll show up underneath those black lines that we drew for the mouth. Next thing I'm going to do is give him some hands and arms. So I'm just going to call that layer arms. And I'm going to get back to my default black on top. And I'm going to see if I can make it look like he is trying to push his way out of this woman's hands. So I'm going to go like this. And just give him a little hand there. Some helpful shortcuts to know are Control Z to go back, and Shift Control Z or Shift Command Z on a Mac to go forward. So Control or Command Z to go back, Shift Control Z or Shift Command Z to go forwards. And I'm trying to make it look like, again, he's pushing out of the hand. I'm going to give him a leg too, but to do that, I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm just going to call it legs. On that layer, I'm going to try and make it look like he's got some little legs sticking out here. I'm also, if you zoom way in, this is really particular, but you can see where that doesn't fully meet the apple. To make it look realistic, ooh, look, I just made a mistake. I was on the legs layer and I painted in on the arm. I don't want to do that because look, if I hide the arm, that mark is there. If I hide the legs, that part goes away. So we want to really keep these things all together. I'm going to undo that. Actually, I'm just going to erase this part because it's on the leg. So I'm going to get my E for eraser, remove that, and I can do it easily because I'm nowhere near the actual legs. Okay, I'm going to go to my actual arms layer, get my brush. I'm going to fill that in some more. But now I'm going to get my eraser and I'm just going to erase along the edge of that apple to make it look a little more believable there instead of having that piece missing. I'm going to do the same thing to the leg. I've got to make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm bringing that in closer. Get my E for eraser. Here's another shortcut that might help. You can just freehand this, but sometimes it's a little tough. So one thing you can do is click once and then let go, hold shift, and as long as you're holding shift, everywhere you click after that, it's going to draw a straight line between. So if you can see, I'm holding shift that whole time, and where I click and let go and then click and let go, it draws a straight line like connecting the dots between those two areas I clicked. So that can just sometimes help you when there's like a straight line you have to make and it's hard to freehand. That tip can be a lifesaver. All right, so I've got my little apple guy and I am going to just give him maybe a little outline because I want to separate him out a little bit more from the hand. So I'm going to make one more layer, call it outline, get my brush. And that same thing that I told you about with the eraser, that shift thing, you can use that to make outlines too. So as long as I'm holding shift, any 2 points where I click, that shift will connect them as I draw. So I'm going to just start here, holding shift. I'm not going to worry that it goes over that stem for now because I can go back and erase it later. But on this outline layer, I'm just going around my apple. I don't think I'm going to go around the fingers though because I think that would end up being more of a distraction than it would add to the piece. Here's where this actually comes in handy. So I went a little far out on my outline. I don't like it. If this was all on the same layer, I'd get my eraser and I would have to go so carefully to avoid not erasing the mouth. But because they're on separate layers, it's so easy to remove just a part of my outline without messing with the other details. So separating things out onto layers to be organized is a really helpful skill to practice. Okay, so now looking through my layers just to check. I have my image layer, which we're calling edit. I have my eyes, my teeth, background, the white part. I have the outline of the mouth, the arms, the legs, the outline around the apple, and lastly his eyebrows. So if you are satisfied, oh, I forgot to come and clean these up. Let me go back to my outline, get my eraser, getting close with Command or Control plus, using my brackets to decrease my brush size. I just got to make sure that that little detail didn't give me away. Oh, this one too. All right, so if that's looking good, I can get ready to save my work.